for breakfast and lunch every Tuesday and Wednesday, then come. Hungry? We've got you covered. Welcome to Bentley's Restaurant, Greer's Ferry's largest restaurant. Join us for breakfast and lunch every Tuesday and Wednesday, then come back Thursday through Saturday for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. From homemade omelets and our Saturday breakfast buffet to fresh salads, daily lunch specials, and hand-cut ribeyes cut as big as you want them, there's something for everyone. Friday and Saturday nights are legendary with our seafood buffet featuring jumbo peel and eat shrimp, catfish, crawfish, and all your favorites. Plus, don't miss our delicious prime rib on Saturday nights and our crab leg dinner every Friday and Saturday. Whether you're joining us for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, you'll always find great food, generous portions, and friendly service. Bentley's Restaurant in Greer's Ferry. Come hungry, bring your friends, and make every meal one to remember.
Looking for farm-fresh beef for your family? Blacktop Cowboy Cattle Company has you covered. Choose from a whole, half, or a quarter beef, or purchase individual packaged cuts. Our cattle are locally raised, and your beef is processed at a trusted local facility for quality you can taste. Best of all, your order is picked up and hand-delivered locally right to your door by Eddie Whitehurst. Call Blacktop Cowboy Cattle Company today and put farm-raised beef on your family's table.
Are you a sports card collector? Then make your next stop Stan's Sports Cards in Greenbrier. Whether you're chasing vintage legends or today's hottest rookies, Stan's Sports Cards has something for every sports fan. Browse an incredible selection of sports cards, jerseys, memorabilia, and collectibles from your favorite teams and players. Looking to sell? Stan's Sports Cards is actively buying vintage and modern sports cards. Turn those cards sitting in a box into cash today. Visit Stan's Sports Cards at 26 South Broadview, Highway 65, in Greenbrier, open Tuesdays through Fridays from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Ready for your next beach getaway? Discover the perfect vacation with Willock Condo Rentals. Enjoy beautiful beachfront condos in Navarre Beach and Panama City Beach, Florida. When you book directly with the owner, you'll pay no service fees, saving more money for fun in the sun. For over 15 years, Willock Condo Rentals has helped families create unforgettable beach memories with comfortable accommodations and breathtaking Gulf views. Start planning your next vacation today. Contact Willock Condo Rentals and experience the beach the way it was meant to be.
Discover Little Red at Indian Hills, where good food, great views, and Arkansas hospitality come together in Fairfield Bay. Enjoy lunch or dinner with comfortable indoor seating, a relaxing outdoor patio, and barbecue available Thursday through Saturday. From golfers fresh off the course to locals and visitors alike, Little Red is the place to gather, eat well, and unwind. Little Red at Indian Hills. Good food, great views, and a Fairfield Bay favorite.
It's time for Lake Area Takes. Join longtime Lake Area sports broadcasters John Verser and Austin Gray as they dive into the biggest stories, hottest debates, and boldest opinions in sports. John and Austin bring their experience, insight, and plenty of takes. Lake Area Takes is proudly sponsored by Blacktop Cowboy Cattle Company, Bentley's Restaurant, Willock Condo Rentals, Little Red Restaurant, and Stan's Sports Cards. Lake Area Takes with John Verser and Austin Gray, where local voices deliver big-time sports talk.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Lake Area Takes, episode 6, live here on Lake Area Sports.
Still letting us do this.
They're still letting us do it. We are waiting the day to be canceled, and yet here we are. Austin Gray and John Verser, we're glad to be with you, whether you're watching on Facebook, Spotify, or YouTube. We are just about through, man, this is the end of July. We've almost done a whole month. We have done over a month of episodes, I guess. So
Yeah, thanks to all our guests for making this possible, all the advertisers, and everyone who's tuned in and watching. I've heard from several people that they've watched every episode.
I know
So
we have had a lot of viewers and a lot of people leaving comments. Please don't forget, leave comments, whether you agree with us or not. And it seems like we've had a lot of nots, but that's all good. That's what we're here for.
yeah, exactly. Get the conversation going.
I tell you, talking to comments and people giving feedback, and you mentioned all the guests we've had. I don't know that we've had quite as many people commenting with excitement about a guest as we've had for this week. We mentioned last week that we had Coach Corey Heffentrager from CBC women's basketball on, and we just decided, heck, let's just go 2 for 2 here and do back-to-back weeks of college women's basketball. And so we've got Concord class of 2014 graduate and head women's basketball coach at Faulkner University, Jacob Roark, with us today. And Coach, thanks for being on. We're excited to have you. Welcome to the show.
I appreciate y'all having me. Yeah, looking forward to it.
So we were talking just briefly before we went on air, and again, we've had a lot of people commenting, excited to have you on today. And you mentioned, we don't get to talk very much about the old high school days, but we definitely want to go back in time a little bit, 12, 15 years ago, and touch on it. You are a graduate from Concord, class of 2014, and definitely one of the I can attest, one of the best athletes in the Lake area to come through in the last 10, 15 years for sure. Just talk about going to school at Concord, growing up in Concord, and getting to play basketball for the Pirates.
Yeah, no, I mean, I loved it. It's a little bitty town. I have to tell when I'm recruiting now, nobody knows where it's at in Arkansas. So I have to explain I graduated with 35 kids. So it's a lot different than a lot of people are used to, but I mean, I could get in the gym anytime I wanted. I ran to the gym a few times. It's 4.5 miles away, but loved that. Loved growing up with the same kids basically for 13 years there. And obviously, Hans Bowman, Luke Cornett, we're still really good friends to this day. So it was a great experience.
Hey, you mentioned, so we'll just kind of jump in, Hans Bowman and Luke Cornett, all three of you guys are head coaches at various levels. How do you think something like that happened?
We all loved it. That's the biggest thing, that if there was an open gym, basically from the time we were in 7th grade on, we were there. I think Hans is still like that. He's probably at an open gym right now. If he's listening to this, that's what he's doing. So, I mean, we cared about it a lot. We spent a lot of time on it. And then as we got through, we were like, man, that was a great time in our life. So let's just keep doing it.
So, you and I graduated the same year. And so I got to see all of those guys, you plus Luke plus Hans, Ethan, all those guys in that class of 2014. And it's very rare, especially in small towns like we were from, to have that much talent in one class. And even more rare today, with school choice and things like that, to see a group of guys who grew up as friends from elementary school all the way through high school who play together. And you can just tell when you watch some teams that, hey, those guys have played together since they were kids and they just gel, they mesh. That's what you guys had. Is that what amounted to how much success you guys had at Concord, or was there more to it? Like, what was it that made y'all work so well together?
I mean, I think it started with we all really cared about each other. So that's for sure. When we were – I remember being in like 4th grade and my mom, or I remember Luke's dad, they'd open the gym and we'd just go play 3-on-3 or 4-on-4. We just did it all the time. We played every day at recess. We were just playing, honestly, as much as you can imagine. Every chance there was to play basketball, we did it. And, doing that for, like you said, 13 years, I think it developed a lot of our games. I think it developed a lot of our IQ. And I think that's the thing when I look back that separated us from a lot of the other teams is we knew how to play. We were not the biggest. We were not the most athletic. We were skilled, but we played a lot. We knew how to play. So that was the separator for us.
Looking back at that magical state championship run for you guys in 2014, win 40 games, it's almost unheard of to play that many games a lot of time, but to win 40 games, what were the things that worked for you guys?
We felt like we could score with anyone. So I just remember, coach always preaching tempo, always trying to up the pace, always trying to, make it a game to 100 and see what happens, because we felt like we could do that. The thing when I think back to that team, it was just how competitive everybody was. I think back to like the first day of practice our senior year, and we're coming off of getting beat in the state championship game. I can't speak for them on this, but for me, I felt like we should have won a couple, and we're going into our senior year and we hadn't won any. And so there was just a different level of, we're going to get after it every day. We are going to go at each other every day. And I mean, it felt like every day there was about a fist fight, but then we'd in practice and it's all good. So we're just ready to go again tomorrow.
And you guys had, outside of just you, Hans and Luke, when you guys were sophomores, you had Ryan and Hunter and had a lot of talent with those guys. And then it's like, okay, those guys have finally graduated. Maybe you would expect it to dissipate a little bit. And then by senior year, here comes guys like TJ. And it's just like, can't catch a break. Like there's always ball handling. There's always defense. There's always spot up shooters in the corner. And I always tell people, anytime we played you guys, it was always like you look up at the scoreboard and you're like, we're down 6 or 7, we're okay. 1 minute later, you're down 16. And it happened. It happened like that every time, and it happened like that almost any time you guys played anyone. And I mean, that just was a testament to me of, you said y'all weren't very athletic. I would beg to differ. Y'all were pretty athletic.
Well, coach always told us how we weren't very athletic, so it's stuck in there.
That sounds like him. I want to ask you too, real quick, while we're talking about it, because I did get a message last night. We've talked about some of the guys you played with, and you keep saying coach, but obviously you played for Keith Fournette at Concord. And John and I have gotten to know him a little bit better these last few years for obvious reasons. And I talked to him yesterday before you came on, and I just asked him if there was anything I needed to mention or ask you while you were here. And I got a pretty lengthy message, so I'm going to read this to you verbatim from Coach Cornett. Jacob was by far the best player I have ever coached. His work ethic was like no other. He was a fierce competitor, and he hated to lose. Lots of kids hate to lose, but very few are willing to work so hard at it to make sure that it doesn't happen. But that's Jacob. I still think he may hold records for scoring, but he could care less about all of that because he is so unselfish. He simply just wanted to win. If you gave us a 1-point lead in the fourth quarter with no shot clock, the game was over. Watching his work ethic outside of practice made me want to win so bad for him. So talk about what Coach Cornett means to you, and kind of how awesome it is to hear him say that all these years later.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I felt like me and him always had a really good relationship. He's still to this day the best coach that I've ever been around, and all I do for a living is talk to coaches at this point. He can manage a game better than anybody, but we had just such a good relationship. We'd be in PE every day, and me and Luke and Hans, we'd just go hang out and sit and talk to coach. And, I just had so much respect for how he approached the game, how he handled our team. As a coach now, I look back and like his willingness to change. That group that graduated right before us, they were all post players essentially. They were all forwards and big guys, and he did something with them, and then we come up and he puts in dribble drive. He'd never done it before, and so just his willingness to do something new because he thought it fit his team, like that's always stood out to me looking back. But he's awesome. So, and I really value that relationship. I'll still text him every once in a while now and be like, hey, I got this issue with my team. Like, what do I do? What would you do? How would you handle this? And, he's always there, willing to help.
Go into something a little bit more contemporary, Concord legend and all of that. But what did you think the first time you saw him in green?
Say that again.
What did you think the first time that you saw him in green, being a Concord legend?
I don't want to answer that.
I know what your answer is because it's the same that ours was too. Trust me, even from the other side, it was odd.
it didn't feel right. And then, Luke follows him over there and it doesn't feel right, but I know it's good for them. I know they're enjoying it, but it's, you look back and couldn't imagine that 12 years ago. That's all I'll say.
That's always my answer. Everybody from when we graduated, I'm like 15 years ago, someone had told you Keith Cornett would be coaching Westside. Now Luke too. Your answer would be, and everybody's is always no chance, no way, not happening. But
now we did always talk about, how cool it would have been even back then if we could have got those two teams combined, because we were really good, but so was Westside, man. They had some dudes, so would have been awesome.
Yeah, the only thing I was gonna ask you about Westside and Concord is obviously we didn't have any kind on paper. There was no competitive rivalry. We beat you guys one time ever. But and it was in the Lake Classic, couldn't even have been a conference or anything that mattered. But you remember anytime we played y'all, whether it was in Concord or Brady Hip, and that's two completely different capacities because they both hold very different amounts of people. You remember it was full every single time we played you guys, and that was more than just our fans. That was people just coming to watch because even though most of the time the games ended with you guys winning by 20, everybody knew the atmosphere was going to be big and it was going to be a lot of fun. And what do you remember about the rivalry from when we were in school?
I don't remember the 20-point wins. It always felt a lot closer to me. I remember that last time we played, it had to be, was it in region?
I think we either played y'all because we hosted district our senior year, but you guys also did senior night with us because of weather. So it was one of those two games, or if you're talking about the double overtime game, that was one of those two.
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about. And y'all, we were beat. We had no business winning that game. And I still, to this day, I'm like, I don't know what happened. We shouldn't have won, but somehow we did. So no, but Logan Bailey, I know he's a year ahead of us, but he's one of the toughest guys I've ever played against to this day. Like I don't know if the feeling's mutual. I know that me and him have talked a lot since high school, but I have a lot of respect for him. I think he's awesome.
Yeah, he's now coaching as well.
Coaching at Melbourne. A lot of those guys, I'm telling you. And you're right, that game that night, I remember just absolutely being crazy. But, stuff happens. And as always, seemed like Concord found a way to win. So.
Going a little bit to what you're doing now, I know you're at Faulkner University in Montgomery, but before that you were in Florida. Getting to be a head coach the same year that you graduate college, what was that like and how daunting of a task was that?
Well, thankfully I was too dumb to realize I wasn't ready for that. So, you kind of – I was like 24 and thought I had everything figured out. And so they said, hey, do you want to do this? I'm like, yeah, sure. I'll do a great job. Why wouldn't I? You kind of get thrown into the fire, realize there's a lot you don't know at that point. So it was fun. It was a low expectation, kind of figure it out. It wasn't going to be wins or losses that determined if I kept my job or not. So it was good to see the college side of it from coaching. I'd played it, but it's a different thing. And honestly, that's what led to where I'm at now, because I had basically no connections on the women's side of college basketball, and met Reed Sutton. They were in our conference. Just worked out when our program got shut down. Faulkner was looking for an assistant, so I flipped over to him. We had 2 really good years together. And then I went to Pitt State for a year. We had a really good year. And then now I'm back at Faulkner, just about to start year 3, and it's going well.
Everybody we've had on so far that has had any connection with the college game, whether coaching or players, we talk a lot about the state of college athletics these days because, as you mentioned, you played a little bit, but that was, 10, 12 years ago. How much has the game changed in the 10 to 12 years you've been around it, whether as a player or a coach?
It's changed a lot. The thing that I talk about a lot is even the talent level My team that we had last year, we were good. We won 21 games, made a national tournament. That team, talent-wise, was so much further ahead of, the team that we had at Faulkner 3-4 years before that won 25 games. It just the talent level is going up real fast right now, and this whole fifth-year thing, I think, is only going to bump it up higher. We will be able to get more talented kids than we've been able to because there's just not room for them. So just from that side, it's already crazy. The whole NIL thing is going to be a whole nother headache. It hasn't impacted us yet. Now it could at any point. Division two, all my Division two friends are talking about how they're having to fundraise, they're having to do all the things. So I don't know that I really get excited thinking about that, but I think it's inevitable.
We talked a little bit last week with Coach Corey down at CBC, and just wanted anybody who is wanting to be recruited in that line, playing not just basketball or anything, but what's the best way for someone who is wanting to play in college to get noticed and to be contacted by coaches?
The simplest way is play on the right AAU team, and that's going to sound maybe not great, but these programs, we have relationships with coaches in the programs. We know kind of what they're looking at, what level their kids are, so we always are in contact with different AAU coaches. Elite camps, if you've never been seen by a school and you want to go there, the easiest way is to go to an elite camp and get in front of the coaches. We're recruiting a girl right now. We'd never seen her before. She came to elite camp in June. We're trying to get her on a visit here in a couple weeks. So, everybody talks about emailing and doing all that. The problem is that we get so many of those emails. So we try to sort through them all. Sometimes it's just hard to tell, and so getting live and in person is definitely the best route.
Yeah, I think that must be a testament to true, because that's basically a copy and paste answer from what we heard last week. And, CBC is different level than you guys, different state than you guys, but it seems like that's the same thing. Coach Corey talked about, I get emails after emails, but I don't have time. I mean, just play summer league, come to camps where we can get eyes on you, and that's the best way to do it.
Yeah. Now, I'll say this too. If a high school coach ever calls me, I am going to answer the phone. So maybe if you're just really interested, tell your high school coach to call me.
There you go. I was going to ask you too. I know that when we were in school, and still today, there's a lot of close relationships between guys from Concord and guys from Cedar Ridge. And I know we went to school around the same time as Spencer and Austin. Do you have any connection with both those guys? Do you still keep in touch?
Yeah, I do. We, they do the Reeves camp every summer. I've worked them every year they've had them. I am slowly trying to get into some golf. I've been playing a couple years now, not any good, but like me and Spencer were texting 2 days ago. We're going to go play sometime next week. I went and played with Austin a few weeks ago. So we've got contact. We're in group messages together. So it's not like it used to be, back in the day. I think me and Spencer were together every day all summer, just in the gym somewhere. And then we drag Austin along and try to talk him into doing stuff. He didn't feel like it half the time, but we could work on something for a month and he'd come in and do it day one. So who cares? You don't have to then. But no, we still keep in touch.
We talked a little bit about last week. We asked Coach Corey this one as well, but basketball, I think, in North Central Arkansas and this area is kind of different. The culture is different. What makes the culture in basketball as a whole so good, and I think probably underrated in this area?
I would even argue all of North Arkansas basketball is good. It's good coaches. That's going to be the simplest place to start. People that know how to play, so you don't have to teach them everything that's going on. Most of the coaches in this area, they're willing to put in work. That if you want to get in a gym, they'll get you in a gym. And over time, that really helps develop kids. You have a kid for 4 or 5 years and you get to work with them a lot, and it changes things.
And one more thing I wanted to ask you that Coach Cornett told me. Now, this may be something that a lot of good athletes do, but the one thing he did tell me you used to do, I had never heard of anybody doing this before, but he said that you used to always practice your ball handling. You would not turn the lights on in the gym, and you would practice ball handling in the dark. Is that true?
That is true, and that, who knows if it helped at all. The old Pistol Pete movie. I saw him do that when I was in like 4th grade, and I was like, I'll do it. Why not? So I'd do it all the time. Most days when I would go to the gym, I would just start with ball handling. I wouldn't even turn the lights on. I'd just do it. When I finished that, then I'd turn the lights on and do everything else.
We've talked a little bit about Coach Cornett a lot, but how has he influenced you, not just as a coach, but as a person as well?
The way that he cared about us, I think that's like the foundation of my coaching, but just I try to be like that as a human. It wasn't all, of course, we won a lot of games. Of course, he cared about that. He was trying to win, but, he'd check in on you. He'd make sure you're doing all right. We weren't talking basketball all the time. We were just talking life. That's probably the biggest thing that he's done. It's not, especially for me back then, it was basketball, blinders on. I didn't care about anything else. And he kind of helped me expand some of that.
Yeah, I think we can relate to that. I know John and I always kind of just knew him more on the basketball level of things and knew, he's a pretty cool guy. He's pretty chill, obviously a great coach. And, then he comes to Westside and we start working with him and more conversations with him. And very quickly do you realize that, he is just a good person. And you're right. You can still tell he cares about his players so in depth. And that does make him awesome. I think that you're spot on with that for sure.
Yeah. Now he comes off a little dry, but he still cares.
That might be more Luke than Keith, but
that's definitely more Luke.
Well, Jacob, we appreciate you being on with us today. One more thing before you go. So one of our sponsors that we have is Little Red Restaurant up in Fairfield Bay, connected to Indian Hills Golf Course. And they give away a gift certificate every single week to a viewer. And the way we determine who wins it is they have to go in the comments of our video here on Facebook, and they have to leave a kind of a code word or a secret word for the week. And we have been letting our guests pick the word of the week. So last thing we're going to ask of you, can you give us any word, whatever you want, something that we can tell the viewers to leave in the comments for them to have a chance to win a Little Red gift certificate this week?
Yeah, thankfully I did get this much of a heads up on this one, so I put a little thought into what this was going to be. Our senior year, coach gets saved, and we have this big theme of our year, and it's a little bigger than basketball, and we get Jesus wins across our jersey, our shooting top. So if we can do 2 words, I'd like for it to be Jesus wins.
We can. We can do Jesus wins, and I know the last 2 years and the press conferences at Hot Springs after the state championship games when John and I have listened to Coach, first words out of his mouth both years has been Jesus wins, first and foremost.
That's awesome. Yeah.
That's cool to know that that's where that started. And I do remember those shirts from y'all's senior year.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, Coach, we appreciate you being on. It's been fun to reminisce and have you in. And I know, like we've said, everybody's been excited to hear from you. So we may have to have you back in the future. And good luck this season, by the way.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I enjoyed coming on. Like I said, I don't living in Alabama. Not a lot of people ask me about my high school career, so it's fun to get on and talk. And I'd be willing to come back anytime.
Thank you. We'll have to do it. Thanks, Jacob. We appreciate you.
Yep. Thank y'all.
And I tell you what, clearly, I've got a lot of memories from when he played. He was, by far the best player in our area. Him and Logan were just, like a 1A and 1B of talent in our conference and in our area. But to hear Coach Cornett, who's now coached for I don't even know how many years, very first thing still say he's the best player I've ever coached.
Yeah.
And, it says something too about him when you mentioned all three from that class coaching, and they all played underneath Coach Cornett. So clearly they've all had success. So
Yeah, they've had a good influence and had success both on and off the court. So it's an amazing thing to see.
So you heard Coach Jacob Roark from Faulkner University in Alabama. The code words for this week, two of them, Jesus wins. So you get down in the comments and leave Jesus wins, and you'll be put into a drawing for a chance to win a $25 gift certificate to Little Red Restaurant. We do have a winner from last week, and I am as unprepared as I can be, trying to scroll through and find who the winner was. And I'm having no luck. Was it in our group? No, I thought it was just, let's see here. This is the part on the screen where there's supposed to be some kind of logo that says hold tight or something like that. I know I read it because
he told me the other day, and
he told me too, and
I did not. We were on a phone conference call that night. And
oh, here we go. All right. Moment of silence is over. Winner from the last week's entrance is Tammy Westerman. So congratulations to Tammy Westerman. We will be in contact with you for your $25 gift certificate to Little Red. And once again, if you want a chance to win this week's, get down in the comments and leave Jesus wins. You'll have a chance to win $25 to Little Red. We got a lot more show coming up right after this. We're going to take another commercial and hear from our awesome sponsors here on Lake Area Takes. And we'll be right back and have more show for you in just a second.
Hungry? We've got you covered. Welcome to Bentley's Restaurant, Greer's Ferry's largest restaurant. Join us for breakfast and lunch every Tuesday and Wednesday, then come back Thursday through Saturday for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. From homemade omelets and our Saturday breakfast buffet to fresh salads, daily lunch specials, and hand-cut ribeyes cut as big as you want them, there's something for everyone. Friday and Saturday nights are legendary with our seafood buffet featuring jumbo peel and eat shrimp, catfish, crawfish, and all your favorites. Plus, don't miss our delicious prime rib on Saturday nights and our crab leg dinner every Friday and Saturday. Whether you're joining us for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, you'll always find great food, generous portions, and friendly service. Bentley's Restaurant in Greer's Ferry. Come hungry, bring your friends, and make every meal one to remember.
Looking for farm fresh beef for your family? Blacktop Cowboy Cattle Company has you covered. Choose from a whole, half, or a quarter beef, or purchase individual packaged cuts. Our cattle are locally raised, and your beef is processed at a trusted local facility for quality you can taste. Best of all, your order is picked up and hand-delivered locally right to your door by Eddie Whitehurst. Call Blacktop Cowboy Cattle Company today and put farm-raised beef on your family's table.
Are you a sports card collector? Then make your next stop Stan's Sports Cards in Greenbrier. Whether you're chasing vintage legends or today's hottest rookies, Stan's Sports Cards has something for every sports fan. Browse an incredible selection of sports cards, jerseys, memorabilia, and collectibles from your favorite teams and players. Looking to sell? Stan's Sports Cards is actively buying vintage and modern sports cards. Turn those cards sitting in a box into cash today. Visit Stan's Sports Cards at 26 South Broadview, Highway 65, in Greenbrier, open Tuesdays through Fridays from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Ready for your next beach getaway? Discover the perfect vacation with Willock Condo Rentals. Enjoy beautiful beachfront condos in Navarre Beach and Panama City Beach, Florida. When you book directly with the owner, you'll pay no service fees, saving more money for fun in the sun. For over 15 years, Willock Condo Rentals has helped families create unforgettable beach memories with comfortable accommodations and breathtaking Gulf views. Start planning your next vacation today. Contact Willock Condo Rentals and experience the beach the way it was meant to be.
Discover Little Red at Indian Hills, where good food, great views, and Arkansas hospitality come together in Fairfield Bay. Enjoy lunch or dinner with comfortable indoor seating, a relaxing outdoor patio, and barbecue available Thursday through Saturday. From golfers fresh off the course to locals and visitors alike, Little Red is the place to gather, eat well, and unwind. Little Red at Indian Hills. Good food, great views, and a Fairfield Bay favorite.
All right, welcome back to Lake Area Takes. And again, thank you to Jacob Roark, head coach at Faulkner University in Alabama, for being our guest today. Again, Jesus wins. Leave that in the comments for a chance to win $25 to Little Red this week. This past week, I can't remember exactly what day.
This Monday.
It was just this Monday. You're right. We saw the Arkansas Activities Association had 13 different proposals put in front of them for their annual meeting of their governing body to vote on. Didn't put them all down verbatim. Didn't figure we would just go down the line 1 through 13 and talk about them. But is there any of these things that these guys talked about from this past Monday and voted on that caught your eye more than others?
I don't know how you went through the list, but this is basically how I went through the list, and I typed good, no issue, or who cares. That is the three categories.
That's a good way to put. That's a very good way to break them down, honestly.
So that is the three categories that I chose to identify them as. I think the best things that came out of all the rules is let me see the numbers. Numbers 8 and 9, the ejections and the penalties for that. So I think those are the best things that were passed by far. I even typed "this is great" in all caps because I'm blind, and just to make sure I can read that. But it basically doubles the penalty from either 1 game or 4 quarters to 2 games. Well, if ejected the first time, must sit 2 games or 8 consecutive football quarters. The second time, must sit 4 games or 16 consecutive football quarters. So if it's football, you have to sit that many quarters. Games, if it's another sport. So that is obviously great because that just stuff on the field, on the court, does not need to be tolerated. There needs to be no excuses. And if you're participating in that, don't. And the other thing is that tied in with that, if you are a senior and you fight, say, in basketball season, but you're playing baseball, then you have it carries over. So I think those are the best things that they passed by far, and hopefully that will put an end to any silliness that people have in mind.
Yeah, I think that we saw this past year an unfortunate number of events all across high school sports, more so than we're used to, and obviously culminating in late February with or early March in the 2A state tournament. And it kind of, if anybody didn't want to talk about it, that kind of forced everybody's hand. And I agree with you. I think that, when we could see the vote passing, vast majority easily voted on, and, doubling the penalty seemed like one of those things that it seems like it would be obvious, but I wasn't, when I saw the proposal laid out, I thought, oh man, they are going to do it. But beforehand, I thought, I don't think they would, take that big of a step to do it. So to me, it's refreshing to see that we're going to go that route of double the penalty. And I do like the rule for seniors too, because I think that was what a lot of people had on their brain was, how are they going to suspend all these kids who are never coming back? Now you got kids who, be careful. You get in fight in football season, you ain't playing some basketball.
Or if you don't play basketball and you're impacted in track
or anything else,
or whatever the sport may happen to be.
And I think that's great too. I think anything they can do to make sure there's incentive and some insinuation on all the kids to make sure that they don't engage. And now, in my opinion, yes, it goes on the kids now, but, now the hand is in the hands of, especially, the coaches of these guys.
Yes.
Something starts to happen, they have to know in the back of their mind,
hey, stop it.
I'm about to lose this guy for 2 games if he don't quit.
Yeah.
Or,
The second time, you're going to miss 40% of your football season.
Of your season. And
so
say
that's an extreme penalty, and it should
right. And say that happens in week 6, week 7. I mean, your season's over virtually, potentially. So I love it, and that just makes me, the only thing it makes me wonder, when you look at the vote count, I would love to ask the people who voted no what their reasoning was.
Yes.
Just me personally, especially after the season we had last year.
Yeah, I don't know how you could vote no against this, because it's becoming, unfortunately, in society, an epidemic where things like this continue to get worse. People behave worse in public, and anything that you can do on the field to put a stop to it is good. And if you get ejected for fighting, anything that happens is on you.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So those are the big things that I took away from those proposals.
It is. I agree, and like I said, I think kids are going to be kids. I'm not saying that they get off scot-free for doing this. Obviously not, because they're the ones who get punished. But to me, now it's in the hands of the coaches to make sure that they put their foot down. Obviously the officials are going to do. That's what they're there to do. Sometimes, as we saw last year, they can only do so much.
Yeah.
So now it's in the hands of those in charge of the teams to see what they can do from there.
Yeah. The other good thing that I thought was proposal number 1. Where if you are, say, a 7th grade student and you fail 7th grade and you do not get to participate in athletics,
Mm-hmm.
your second 7th grade, you're limited to the 2 years in junior high, or depending on how the school is divided. Yeah, the 6 years, 7th through
Mm-hmm.
12. If you fail a year, you do not get the extra year to play. So I think that was just a common sense proposal.
And I've got, as a husband to a teacher, I know it's, there's a lot of schools out there today where athletics reigns supreme. And I know we both are lucky enough to know and have seen plenty of coaches who are not afraid to tell their athletes, like, hey, you got to make sure you make the grade. And there's a lot of good coaches who hold their athletes accountable. But unfortunately, I'm sure there are plenty out there who academics is the least thing on their mind.
Yeah.
And so they really don't care how their players are doing in the classroom. But like I said, as the husband of a teacher, I know that stuff like that is what they try to stress to their kids, who are struggling, if they're athletes, to get them to do better. Like, hey, if you don't pick up the pace a little bit,
then you're out.
You're risking not getting to play. And now you're right, they have this incentive, especially if they're at the risk of being held back a whole other year. It's like, well, hey, don't expect to play again next year if you can't pass. So I'm with you, and I think you said it well. This very, very common sense, and something that wouldn't have been surprised to have already seen be a thing, but to each their own.
Anything that you have that stood out before I continue?
No, those were the 3. That one kind of, I didn't really have. To me, it was 8 and 9. That one was a good one as well, and like I said, that one was one my wife and I actually talked about. So you said you had good, and your middle category was, what was your middle?
No issue.
No issue. Okay.
Another good that I thought was proposal number 3. The one we just talked about was 2, not 1. I got
And
mine.
the dead weeks.
Yeah.
Correct.
The dead weeks, I thought that was good. It kind of solidifies that. And another thing it does, it allows community members to use school facilities. Say if there's only one baseball field or whatever in a town, or only one, those teams can still use it in practice as long as there's no school coaches and all that involved. And
right.
So I think that was also a good addition to the dead week thing, but it kind of solidifies that. And according to KWNA in Fayetteville, the dead weeks, and I think they were already kind of close to this, but it's the week before the 4th of July and the week of 4th of July in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
But it looks to me like that one in December was extended just a little bit, because they've got it listed as December 23rd through the 27th. So that may impact some winter tournaments.
I believe from everything I have seen, a lot of people were surprised to see a dead period over Christmas. Some people misinterpreting, thinking, "Oh, now we have a dead." What most people didn't realize was there's always been a dead period over Christmas.
This seems to kind of solidify it.
It solidifies it. I think it clarifies a little bit, because I think what the rule is they give you a window of 4 days, and each school picks two.
Okay. So
picks
this
2
new one may have
days.
been wrong, yeah.
I think that it's, the 23rd to the 27th are the days that AAA says, okay, must choose 2 of these days, because I think it's pretty much understood most schools pick the 24th and 25th of dead time. There will be no because a lot of people do play holiday tournaments, and I know you and I both seen plenty of guys who get back in the gym on December 26th, the day after Christmas. So I think that
tournaments that start the 26th.
exactly.
As well.
So I think it was a kind of more of a clarification of here's a 4-day window. Each school chooses 2 days to have a dead period. But I was surprised to see as many people thinking, "Oh my gosh, we've finally instituted a Christmas dead period." There's always been one, and I think that was AAA's goal was we need to clarify more that so people realize there is a dead period of time over the winter holidays. So.
Yeah, I agree.
And again, only one person, I guess, didn't like that. But.
Yeah, that was my next big takeaway from this, other than the objections. And who is the Ron Paul of the AAA who is voting against this? Who is the Dr. No? So that was my other big takeaway from this whole list.
I'm gonna, maybe he was dozing off and he didn't know what he was voting for or something.
Exactly, because a lot of them was like 271 to 1,
Mm-hmm.
and the ones where everybody was getting to the vote, and it's like, okay, who's channeling your inner Ron Paul here? So
Proposal 6, same thing. Proposal 7, same thing. Just that one person.
Yeah.
Both just handbook rewrites is what 6 and 7 were. That's all they were. But still just the one lone Ron Paul. That was, I haven't heard it mentioned that way. That's funny.
And those are the ones I've got proposals 4 through 7, no issue. It just clarifies junior high volleyball matches and proposal number 4 and how many you can have in middle school as well. And then sets the dates when you can have a benefit game in volleyball in proposal number 5, and 6 and 7 were the rewrites. And then you go to 10, which did not pass.
Did not.
And I think that's good because even if there was a couple of these who had a majority, but you had to have 2/3 to pass.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, the competitive equity thing, playing down it just doesn't make any sense to me. So I'm glad this one failed because this one would have allowed, say, a 3A team who did not win 20% of their games in conference to play as a 2A team.
Mm-hmm.
But then the number, if you're going to do all this by enrollment, you've got to be strict by it.
Mm-hmm.
And you should, just because a team is bad, you should not allow them to play down.
Right. The official wording: schools with a win percentage of 20% or less in 3 of the last 4 years in conference play will be given the option, stress that, to play down one classification, and then to remain in that classification, the school must have had a winning percentage lower than 30% in either year of the 2-year block, and they cannot have won a playoff game. So, I mean, they did.
This is very convoluted.
Yeah,
it just needed to not pass because, just because you're bad doesn't mean, 1, you're always going to be bad, and then 2, if you're going to do all this by enrollment, which they have pegged all this to, then you got to make people stick to it and just get better. And it's not fair to the teams. It may not be fair to the teams who are having to face these bigger schools in conference play. Again, if you're going to base all this on strict enrollment numbers. So, and you can't do that there. And then what do you do if a team is a small team? They can't move down anywhere.
No.
It's not fair to them either.
And there's a point where you can only go so low.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, are you going to let 2A teams, who is the lowest classification in football, they get to move down and play JV teams? I mean, it's just a silly conversation to have. I mean, just because a team is bad, a program is bad, things happen. Things go in cycles sometimes. Sometimes, especially the smaller schools, you just don't have the athletes at times, and that's okay. Just go out and enjoy it, work hard, have fun, and you shouldn't be able to move up and down because if you start winning again, then you're automatically moved back up. So it doesn't make sense, and they need to keep it as it is, and I'm glad this proposal failed.
Another one that failed was the one right after that, which is 11. And it had, a pretty good chunk of votes.
I think it actually got a majority.
That one died. 194 to not. But it got a good number of votes to pass. And this one followed an act that passed last year, formation of an isolated school district permitting students of a newly separated school district to continue participation with the previously administratively consolidated school district so long as all other eligibility requirements are met, and that one failed as well.
I think that's probably good that it failed because I think that impacts a couple of schools in this area, both Rural Special and Timbo. A couple other school districts, I think, are going through that same process at this point. But you should not be able to play sports or another AAA sanctioned activity for one school if you're enrolled in another. If you want to do that, go to the other school.
You need to jump.
Yeah, you have school choice now, so you shouldn't be able to take the best of both worlds and say, well, I want to go to this school, but I want to do activities for this other school. It does not make any sense. So I'm definitely glad that one failed.
The one you're talking about where there was majority to pass, but not 2/3, is number 13. This was competitive equity.
Okay.
With the football total points. So every non-public football program that was adjusted by more than one classification would move down one classification for 2027, 2028, and 2029, unless the non-public football program earned an appearance in the 2026 state playoff semifinals, and all other non-public football programs will remain where they are assigned in 2026 year for 2027, and then be reclassified per enrollment and competitive equity for 2028 and 2029. And then it gave a proposed point system. You get a win or a bye, 1 point, state semifinals 2, state finals 3, and you win 4. That one did have more votes, 104 to 71, but not enough to pass.
God, what lawyer got me right on that? That's the first thing I think.
That was the one.
Competitive equity points. I mean, how much? I mean, seriously, we talked a few weeks ago about Michigan, paying the attorneys in Chicago $12 million. Like, well, somebody's getting fired.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this one is, yeah, he did. At the end of this, I guess, calendar year. But this one is like competitive equity. I mean, you're having to put so much math in there and so trying to, well, this happened and that happens. Like, just make it simple as possible and just.
Were you surprised the majority voted for it?
I kind of was.
Yeah.
I kind of was. I mean, I'm not exactly greatly in tune with football playing schools who play AAA sanctioned football. But I was kind of surprised that people would vote for such a convoluted mess, because the system, just looking at it, looks like not just a mess, but you're going to have so much arguments over that. And people moving, up or down starting next football season in 2027 in the middle of a cycle. It's just going to create more problems, and I'm glad that it did not pass. And the whole public-private thing, it's just, I don't think there's enough private schools in Arkansas that they can have their own league. So I don't really think, for the most part, it matters that much, except to schools in the higher classification, really, because, St. Joseph's and Conway, them playing basketball does not really affect,
No,
Sacred Heart and Morrilton.
No.
But, maybe you get, your Shiloh Christian had that tremendous run of football back, 20 years ago. There's, other schools, Catholic High, Pulaski Academy, Harding Academy, had success, whatever. But you still see a lot of public schools. I mean, what do? Break up Bryant? I mean, come on, they have been the dominant force too. So, I mean, I think it's a convoluted, that system was a convoluted mess, and I'm glad it did not pass, because it was just going to create more argument and more fighting than I think it would have solved any potential problems.
Yeah, I don't know who, I'm with you. This was one of the ones I read through, got to the end, and went, I have to read this again, because I had a hard time wrapping my head around it, and then the proposed point system to go along with it. And all I could think of was that very last thing you said. I thought, when I first read it, I thought, there's going to be more confusion at the end of a season trying to figure all this stuff out than there would ever be with anything that's the way it is right now.
And if you have to move somebody, and I don't think this proposal really spelled that out, not that I saw, what happens to that district or whatever? Is somebody else getting moved up? Or they just have to make room for somebody? What does that do to somebody's non-conference schedule, because you've already got, home and away set for that? And you have to throw in another team at that point. Well, somebody's got to be bounced off the schedule, and that affects not just the school in that conference or whatever, but somebody else. And it's just a mess, especially doing it in the middle of a cycle. Makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
One of the closest votes was probably the one that had the least amount of votes. It was just voted on by the 17 people for 6A, and that's proposal number 12, and it was over at the conferences. It would impact the procedure for all their team sports, classifications of sports where conferences have an uneven number of member schools. The number of qualifying teams advancing to state tournaments is determined by maintaining an equitable percentage of total conference participants advancing to postseason play. That one would have had to have had 2/3, 7-4 and 10 against. Did not pass.
Yeah, that was one of the ones that I labeled "Who cares" because that does not affect us.
Does not affect us
at all. And then other than that, it's like, we're arguing over semantics and silly things. Just win it off, and you get in the playoffs. And if you don't, well, that's too bad.
Should have played better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have any sympathy for you. So, well, somebody was hurt. This, that, things happen to everybody. I mean,
right.
I always go back to that NCAA tournament a long dang time ago when Kenyon Martin for Cincinnati was the best player in the country, and he got hurt right before the NCAA tournament. Well, they still had to go out there and play.
Mm-hmm.
They were a clear number one seed. So it's, and then Florida State in football not too long ago.
Mm-hmm.
Both of their quarterbacks, went down. So, things happen.
Things happen. You have to. I mean,
sometimes life is just not fair. Deal with it.
People don't like to hear that. The whole you just got to get out there and play better. And I think, a month ago when we talked about how you could fix postseason, and we were trying to find ways to filter out some of these teams making postseason play that shouldn't be there. And I feel like that was a lot of pushback that we got was people, well, you never know who will get hot late. You never know who might have been hurt and who might, like with Kenyon Martin, who might have been hurt and who might come back later. But you've got a whole season to get in the top 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
It's kind of your fault if you're not there.
And you talk about people getting hot late, getting hurt and all that. Well, when in this area you start conference play the first week of November, you have no excuse not to piece things together by the whole season. It's ridiculous arguments, I think. People can have one opinion, and I'm glad that people commented, and even the folks that disagreed with this. I'm glad to hear the discussions. I think that's part of what we're trying to do here. Is not always just say, well, you've got to agree with us, but more debate, more talk, more bringing up of the issues, I think is good. So I would appreciate all the feedback, even if you think I'm a moron.
Well, we always like to say, or you especially, my opinion that nobody asked for, but here it is. Is there anything else on any of these proposals that stuck out to you? I think we've hit on.
I think we talked briefly about every one of them.
We hit volleyball a little bit. I think
we talked about. I guess we did not really talk about number one.
A little bit. That's
a little bit. Yeah.
Not being able to play again.
Okay. I think we hit all of them just a little bit. Talks about some of them more than others. And really glad to see again. I just want to emphasize that. Really glad to see the penalties if you get tossed during a game, because that needs to be put a stop to. And so really glad that everybody voted the way they did on those,
and I
especially.
Think those were the two, like you said. I think everyone who saw the proposals going in was looking at going, those would be the ones we figure everybody would want to see. And I don't think anybody was totally shocked by any of the outcomes. The only one that I think you and I both agreed on was kind of surprising was the competitive equity football point getting more votes than yay for nay. Still didn't pass, but anyway, so that was some fun AAA happenings this past week. We'll shift now, talk a little bit of college. And again, if you watch us every week, then you know that John and I are chomping at the bit for some college football. You're usually here with a date or a date.
38 days until the first week of the regular season. That's week 1. Week 0 is 31. So 31 days from today, you'll have football on your TV. I think we just started early that morning with the game from Ireland between TCU and North Carolina. We'll see if it's an actual game or not. But it's football on TV.
North Carolina's got their own problems outside of football at the moment. So
yeah, they're having fun in Chapel Hill.
They're having some fun in Chapel Hill, and I think everybody's ready to see if Bill Belichick woke up from his hibernation last year. But because we're ready, and we always try to like to find something to talk about, there's always, every year, one of the most fun things for me as a fan is when the season ends, is to kind of watch how the coaching carousel turns. Every season, there's always new faces in new places. It's a pretty good little class of new faces this year.
Just over 20%, 21.7%. 1/5 of all FBS teams will have a new head coach in 2026. So it's insane. It's 30 total.
Which is crazy. And this is kind of aside from just this, but let me ask you because it's a hot topic with sports in general. Teams these days seem like coaches are giving up on
Very quickly.
instantly.
Yeah.
Is that just me, or do you agree with that?
No, I think that's everywhere.
Everywhere. Professional, call everything. If you don't win now, then
Yeah.
they don't give you a chance to win at all.
It used to just be a thing in Auburn, but now it's a thing everywhere. You know, it's like if you don't have 2 good seasons, you know, right out the gate, it's like, oh my God, you know, and then especially because I think a lot of it is people are spending all this money with NIL and all this other kind of stuff, and people are getting paid, and so it's treated more like professional sports. So it's like, you know, win now or we'll find somebody else.
It's almost just like you have all the assets to make this a winning team now. Why should we give you time to build?
Because you can go out there and buy players.
Because you can go
If
buy
you
players.
if you are paying the same amount as somebody else or more, then you should have better results according to the people who are in charge of all these
So
things.
is the best skill you can have now as a head coach at the college level it's not your John Wooden X's and O's, it's not your game plan, your you know, the sets you run, the formations you prefer. Is the best skill of being a coach now how well you can recruit?
Fundraising.
Fundraising. Yeah.
Because if you can't raise money, you can't pay your team. And that's unfortunately what it's about in a lot of situations now. Because if you're offering a guy $1 million and the other school's offering him 1.25, $250,000 is a lot of money to a 20-year-old. It's a lot of money to anybody.
Really and truly, if your X's and O's brain isn't bright, as long as you're a good salesman and can make a good pitch, you can probably coach. Something.
Yeah, I mean it's all about the Jimmies and Joes, as they say. So I think that's a big part of it. And if you can raise some money and help raise some money and talk people into building your vision there, I mean, paying that's a big chunk of it now.
So as you said, 20% of FBS schools have a new coach this year, and we'll just kind of talk a couple different things, and you mentioned when we talked about it before the show, kind of who might have some good instant success, who might have some long-term success. However, as we just said, however you want to define long-term these days is to each their own. Maybe who will kind of be a bust at their new place, maybe won't last long. We'll start with positives, though. Is there anybody you think will have instant, quick success this year, their first year somewhere?
You know, I'm gonna. You know, look at it. We'll start with the P4 teams, I guess, because there's 16 new Power 4 programs with new coaches this year. I think Lane Kiffin will have success just because LSU's got a bag of cash, and I think that LSU may even outperform Lane Kiffin. Mm-hmm. I think he's a good coach, but I don't think he's the end all be all. I mean, but if you've got that much money and the will to win, which LSU does, then I think they will probably outperform some expectations there. And I would not be surprised that LSU is the top 2 or 3 team in the SEC this year, you know, with Georgia and Texas. Just because you've got a returning starting quarterback with experience, you've got a bag of cash to bring a lot of people in. I think that in that situation, Kiffin is a better fit than, say, Brian Kelly, and so that adds up to a successful first season. Now, how long does that last? I mean, you got the money, but Lane Kiffin is Lane Kiffin, and he's been fired a half a dozen times, it seems, already. So,
I'm telling you, watch the ESPN special for anybody out there if you haven't.
So he is my first pick to have some kind of instant success. I've got some other folks that I've got my eye on, but what do you think?
I think the easy answer to me was mine too, but I talked about it a lot last week that I'm infatuated with Lane Kiffin, and again, not because I think he's the best coach in the world, but the guy has so much drama that follows him everywhere. Yeah. But you're right, he has racked in transfer portal guys, and that you're right, LSU has money to burn, and this guy's going to have eyes on him all year. And LSU's schedule for SEC levels is not that bad, and they have a great chance to go 11-1 or 10-2, and I think they're great chance to finish second behind Georgia. So instant success, whatever happens with Lane, you're right. God knows he's going to be that guy for the rest of his career that anytime any kind of huge job opens, do we go after Lane? Do we go after Lane? And it's just because that's what he's always done. So
at this point too, it's like,
Where do you go from here?
Where do you go from LSU,
LSU?
to go up? I mean, it's like, Alabama basically ran him off during the middle of a playoff run. Nick Saban got tired of dealing with him. So it's
Sidebar conversation. Do you think that they actually get along?
no.
I know for the camera they always show that they can manage to get along, but do you think behind the scenes that they actually ever talk, ever consider themselves, acquaintances, friends, just hate each other? What do you think?
Not that I know either one of them, but there've got to be some serious issues if you're getting rid of somebody in the middle of a playoff run between one game to the next. And so does those issues broach into past the coaching? I don't see Lane as the kind of guy who takes any kind of quote unquote insult lightly.
Yeah.
And Nick Saban has that MO of being stubborn. So I don't think they're great friends, to be honest. I think they're probably, say hi, get along on set, but I don't think they're texting buddies.
Fair enough. I have no difference of opinion on that. I think you're exactly right. If I have another one for instant success, to me is Kyle Whittingham at Michigan. I think that Michigan has been poster boy for just. If Lane Kiffin's the poster boy for drama, Michigan's been the poster boy for crap for the last 4 or 5 years. Not even on field, just off field crap. They've got specials about sign stealers and they've had a Harbaugh, and now they've had Sharon Moore and all his stuff that we won't even talk about. But they're gonna, and their AD's leaving, as we talked about on air 2 weeks ago. Now they've got a guy though who had made a name for himself and seemed like he would never get out of the state of Utah.
He administers stability.
And he has missed. In the world of constantly changing coaches, him and the man at Iowa were the two that are like they will never leave where they are. I think that it's a good fit for Whittingham. I'm excited to see what he does somewhere new. And I think in Michigan and all their crap that's been going on, I think now they're about to get a good, steady, experienced hand on their program. And I think that they're ready to come back to some normality. And I think that, again, a schedule in a tough conference, though, they're worse scheduled in the Big Ten than Michigan's this year. I think that he's got a very good chance in his first year to get them in the playoff, and he may have long-term success too, however long he's got left coaching. But I think right off the bat, though, I think Michigan will have a good year.
Oh, I agree. I think that Kyle Whittingham is this stable force that Michigan has needed for a long time. I mean, they won with Harbaugh despite some issues going around, constant chaos. Him always being. I mean, even when they won the national championship, he was suspended that year.
Mm-hmm.
And then, obviously, with all the issues with Sharon Moore. So Kyle Whittingham will be the stable force that Michigan has not had in a long, long time. One other coach that I want to mention on that list who I think could have, in the state of college football now, some instant success, I would keep an eye out for Eric Morris at Oklahoma State. He has turned around some programs, what he did at Incarnate Word, what he did at North Texas. I mean, he kind of just flat out played. I think he was also briefly the offensive coordinator at Washington State. And talk about some quarterbacks there. They had the guy that went to Miami, and I mean they have put out some really good offensive players. What he did at North Texas was phenomenal this last year. I think they went 10-2. So I would keep an eye out on the P4 level for Oklahoma State. I think they're in a great place. Mike Gundy had some great long-term success there. It was never sustainable past, a couple of years. Whenever you thought Oklahoma State was going to have a good year, they would not. Whenever you thought you counted them out, they kind of did. So I would keep an eye out for Eric Morris. I think they'll go to a bowl game this year. What past that, I don't know. But I really like Eric Morris and what he does offensively. He has coached some great quarterbacks and developed them. I mean, when he was, Cam Ward, he recruited him to Incarnate Word.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and Incarnate Word did not have any kind of success before he was the head coach there. So, yeah, I would look out for Eric Morris. I'd look for some big things for him as well.
My final one for instant success, and I use the term success in a different way with this team because I think for every team, what they would consider a successful season is obviously going to be different. But I think Bob Chesney at UCLA was a great hire. We obviously, between Signetti and everybody else we know, James Madison has kind of been a powerhouse of their level for the last few years. And he's 48 years old. He's young, and it's a UCLA program that, when I was growing up, even in the early 2000s, they were still always ranked, very, a successful program. I've never seen them in a national championship or anything. I wasn't around in the Troy Aikman days or anything, but I know that they've had success in the past, and they have not had it for a while, seems like. And they've showed pictures, at the games of very few people in the stadium, and then they fired their coach last year, and then all of a sudden, they beat Penn State, and it's like they show just a little engine that could spirit about them. And I think those people who really love UCLA or really want to win, for me, success for them, they'll make a bowl game this year. If you can make, if in that Big Ten conference, who's won 3 national championships in a row, if you can win 6 games, 7 games for a team like UCLA that's not been able to do anything lately, that's successful to me.
Yeah.
Now, how long? I'm not going to put him long term because I don't know with UCLA, but I think for this year, in the definition of that team, I think Chesney at UCLA has an instant successful year.
Yeah,
for UCLA.
I think so. He'll bring. I think we talked a little bit about Michigan. I think he'll bring the stability that's needed at UCLA. They've not had it. I think he'll bring the professional organization. He had success long term at Holy Cross, then you're at James Madison, so he knows how to do things the right way. And I think he'll do that at UCLA.
What about long term?
I think there's so much. Long term, I'm just looking at this list. I kind of like John Summerall at Florida. I know we have not seen anybody have any long-term success in Florida for a long time, but I think he is another kind of solid guy, a good dude. If he can fundraise, they get all the money in there. I think that Florida will become that other power in, I guess, the formerly SEC East with Florida and Georgia. I think they could. I think they finally got a guy who is kind of the right fit, and that he'll only concentrate on football. And he's a great coach, and he's done some good things. And both Tulane and Troy before that, and just a really solid dude. So I if I was a betting person, and maybe I would even say that this may be a hot take, Summerall has better long-term success at Florida than Kiffin does at LSU.
I don't know. That's a warm take. I don't know that it's a hot take because I think there's plenty of people who could see that. I mean, obviously his name's not as big as Kiffin, so that may be why people kind of shy away from that. But I don't think that's out of the realm of being possible.
Anyone who you think is a long-term success at any of that?
James Franklin at Virginia Tech. And I think he is the forgotten hire because his firing happened quickly and his hiring happened quickly. Before any of these other big names started moving around. I think the ACC is getting weaker by the year, and they are lucky to put anybody besides their conference champion in the playoff at this point. And I think that everywhere he has been, he has built programs for long-term success. I think he got fired from Penn State because we are in that age of college football you and I talked about where you lose a couple big games, you're out. And I think his problem for Penn State was you got us to the line every year, but you could not put our foot over it. And I'm sure that he had one more chance. And then when, UCLA happened, it was like, this guy ain't going to do it. But I grew up when Vanderbilt, when sucked. They just sucked always.
They were terrible.
They were always terrible until they got James Franklin.
Yeah.
And then,
you had those few years when Bobby Johnson was there, kind of running the option, and they were, 6-6 was a great year for Vanderbilt, and then James Franklin blew that out of the water.
He did, and then Penn State gave him. He was at Penn State for 12 years, and which again is a long time for today's age. But his record, his win percentage there is phenomenal, and he was the coach there that just kind of made all that drama that happened go away. I mean, he was the one they brought in a little bit post Bill O'Brien, I guess, and was, now nobody really ever talks about the mess that happened. And he kind of rebuilt the culture there. And Virginia Tech has had plenty of years where they've not been a bad team already.
Yeah.
And now they've got a coach in James Franklin, who again are playing in a weak ACC. You can get past Clemson. If Florida State is ever good again, you can get past them and some of those teams like that. Then you've got a good shot to make the playoff. And I believe that it's not unheard of to see a James Franklin team in the playoffs. So I think if they give him time, like Vanderbilt did and like Penn State did, I think that Virginia Tech could be a team that's in conversation every year for the next 10 years.
Oh, I agree. And I think the biggest thing with James Franklin, he brings the stability and know-how, but they're also talking about giving him more resources than the previous few coaches at Virginia Tech. So I think that if you get a guy like James Franklin, you give him the money to win the ACC, I think you expect great things for a long time as long as he wants to be there.
Do you have anybody else for long term?
I don't know that I've got long term. I wanted to talk a little bit about some of these G6 coaches that are coming on. Notable guys with interesting ties. The new coach at Coastal Carolina, Ryan Beard, is the son-in-law of Bobby Petrino.
Okay. He is.
And there are 2 Petrinos on his staff at Coastal Carolina. I say you got all the Petrinos now.
The whole family at Coastal Carolina.
Yeah, in one of the 2 Carolina states. So another one, interesting one, Missouri State's coach Casey Woods comes there from SMU, where he worked for Rhett Lashley, who played at Arkansas, but Woods was also an assistant coach at ASU in 2012 under Gus Malzahn. The new Northern Illinois interim head coach is Rob Harley, who was their defensive coordinator, but 3 years prior to that, he was the defensive coordinator at A-State. So that was an interesting kind of move when Thomas Hammock took the Seahawks assistant coach job, kind of late in the process there. And another interesting one that I thought that affects both schools in the state at the FBS level, Charles Huff going from Southern Miss to Memphis. ASU is on the Memphis schedule, home and home for the next 4 years. And then I want to say, 28 plays Arkansas again, because that game was supposed to happen this year, but when they went to non-conference games, had to be moved. So Memphis at Arkansas, I want to say 28. So those are the interesting ones there. Just looking at the G5 quickly, I really like Mike Jacobs at Toledo. Toledo has great tradition. They have put out tons of good coaches. Matt Campbell got his start at Division I head coaching level at Toledo. The previous coach, Jason Candle, now went to Connecticut. But Mike Jacobs coming over from a very long success he had at the Division II level, and then a great couple of year run down at Mercer in Georgia. I think he will make that program even stronger. So if you're talking about long-term success, I think Mike Jacobs at Toledo, he's destined for some big things if he wants to.
For me, on G5, Huff was the top of my list. I mean, he made Southern Miss into a very, very good team. And then it just, the Marshall thing, Marshall was good. But I think it was, his last stop, you could tell almost just seemed like a pit stop. And it was like, something else is, I don't think that, I don't think there was any knowledge that, hey, Memphis will be open in a year.
Yeah.
I think everybody knew Silverfield would eventually move on. And I was not shocked, as I know a lot of people weren't when he nabbed that Memphis job. And I think for Memphis that's a fantastic hire. And I agree with you that could be long-term success. We talked about this one last week. I'm excited to see, and you probably are not, but I'm excited to see Billy Napier back in the Sun Belt. He had a lot of success at Louisiana before he went up to, have his best shot at Florida. Probably would have gotten fired a few years ago, but every time I think he was on the verge and they said, this is your last chance, he would beat a top 25 team. You're like, we'll give him a second chance, a third chance, fourth chance. Clearly has proven on that Group of 5 level he can win, and he's going to the program that has pretty much, led that, not just the Sun Belt, but the Group of 5 for the last few years. So I don't know, long term, I'm sure if James Madison continues to have success, he'll find him a P4 job again somewhere. But I think it's a good place for him to kind of reset. And so I think they'll have a good year. What do you?
Oh, another coach, before we move on, that I want to throw out there who I think can have some long-term success if he wants to. And I'm kind of jealous they got him because he's always been kind of it's like, well, Butch leaves, I want this guy. And that's Neil Brown at North Texas. He had a great run at Troy. He put together some spectacular teams. He went up to West Virginia, which was a tough job in the Big 12. And especially when he took it, I mean, the nearest team in the Big 12 to him at that point was Iowa State. I mean, so they were just kind of out on an island, and you're not in a great recruiting ground. This isn't, 2000, whatever that was, 10 or whatever, when Rich Rod was there the first time.
Right.
But I think Neil Brown knows how to get it done. He had enough success. He didn't stink at West Virginia by any means. But I think Neil Brown, given the reason he wants to be there, I think Neil Brown will have great success in North Texas because it's a great place to recruit. He is a heck of a coach, and I'm kind of jealous. He was the guy that always thought, if Butch Jones leaves, I want Neil Brown. So I'm kind of jealous.
Your thoughts on Blake Anderson at Southern Miss?
I think it is good for Blake to have another opportunity personally. He was an assistant coach at Southern Miss a long time. But anyhow, so he'd already been there, and then he came back last year under Huff as the OC. I think that the offense will be great at some times under Southern Miss. I think the thing that will be frustrating for Southern Miss fans, I think Blake will win enough games to stay competitive. He will lose some games he should win, and he will win some games that he should lose. That has kind of been his MO.
Yep.
And he will put up a ton of yards, and I think the problem with his offense has been, and the same thing happened, and even when they won last year at ASU, is between the 20s, there is not a better play caller, a better mover of the ball than Blake Anderson offense. And if he can score from outside the 20, he will put up time. I think that the ASU fan base kind of soured on him after that bowl game in Arizona when we doubled the yards of Nevada and still lost 16-13. So I think that is probably his MO, and I don't wish him all the success in the world just because he's in the same division as Arkansas State. But, if he wants to finish second to our first every year, I have no problem with that. But personally, I think it's good for him. It's a good fit for Southern Miss, having been there now twice. But I still think for whatever reason, his offense just, unless he's able to figure something out, in the last three stops just cannot get it done inside the 20. So score from the 30.
Any coaches, new coaches, where there will not be success?
The one that I keep going to, I think he was a great coach, had spectacular success, but this is a completely different era, and I'm talking about Pat Fitzgerald at Michigan State. So much has changed since he coached at Northwestern. Northwestern was his alma mater. It was a great long-term fit. But how he adapts in this new world of college athletics, I don't know. Northwestern was a special place for him because it's your Northwestern, your Vanderbilt, your Boston College, those kind of, not Ivy League, but smart people schools. I don't know a better way to put that.
Nope.
Where you have different standards and, that's different standards on the academic side without the Notre Dame resources. It's probably the category that I put those kind of schools in. And he could undergo a couple of 6-6 seasons at Northwestern. Michigan State, they're all in. They're pissed off because Michigan won a national championship. All these other Big 10 teams are having all kinds of success. They've got a little money, but where they're at in the pecking order is going to have to. How he adjusts to this new world of college athletics, I think, is a huge, major question mark. I think on the field, home run hire, but it's the things that getting to the field. What can he do? And I think there's just too many question marks. And then this era where the Big Ten is one of the two dominant conferences, and the most dominant the last 3 years, I just don't see a good window for Michigan State and him in this era of college football long term.
That was the hire when it happened. Everybody, I believe, looked at it and just kind of went, huh? Michigan State by no means is one of the biggest football names. I mean, they're a basketball school, but it's a Big Ten school, and I think they could have. I think they could have gotten a good young coach. Maybe a first timer P4 that everybody was kind of has always expected to move up, and it almost seems like they settled. And I'm with you. That to me, that was the. I hope it goes well, but I'm with you. I don't see it ending well. Mine, and again, it's hard to judge, but because you haven't seen it, he's not coached yet, head coach. But I'm going Will Stein at Kentucky. He showed up at media days and he Kurt Signetti the heck out of his press conference, which
That was cringe.
if you want to have confidence in yourself, it's fine. But the thing when Signetti'd himself, I'm not even saying he gets a pass because he won the national championship. He got a pass because he had won everywhere he'd been.
The Division II level at 2 stops, the FCS level at Elon, James Madison. He had stellar success.
When he says, "Look me up, I win," he did. This guy's never head coach for it. He's starting in the SEC, and when he's asked, "Why will you have success?" Because of me. Okay, now you got to go prove it. And now the problem is you've told your whole fan base and your school and your boosters, "I got us. We're gonna win." What happens when you win 5 games, 6 games, 7 games on average for the next 4 years, 5 years, and everyone suddenly goes, "Oh, we're not going to quite win as much as he said he would." He'll get it. He would get a job somewhere else, but I think he bit off more than he could chew for a team who's projected to finish anywhere from 13th to 16th in the conference this year. So I don't see them having much success very quickly.
And you're also not in the old SEC East anymore.
No.
Where you could, Tennessee was down when Kentucky had success. Vanderbilt was not good. And so you were going to finish, in the mid to upper pack of the old SEC East. Well, that's not the case anymore. And so I think they're going to struggle in Kentucky as a program long-term all the way down. The other coach that I think that kind of fits in that I have huge questions about is Colin Klein at Kansas State. Being an alum, what do you do if it doesn't go well? He does not have any head coaching experience anywhere. He was the offensive coordinator at Kansas State and then Texas A&M. Mm-hmm. Texas A&M has had some success recently. But there's just too many questions to be unanswered in the new Big 12. Where is Kansas State in the pecking order? And they still show up and surprise some folks and all that. Mm-hmm. But there's just too many questions. And unless they are going to provide the resources, I think that was the problem with the last guy who I could see his face, the guy who came from North Dakota State.
Right.
Who was there for several years, was a fine coach. Mm-hmm. But they apparently did not win enough for Kansas State fans. So you're in a farm state. There's just not a ton of money out there, I don't think. And you've got 2 big FBS programs within, 100 miles of each other or whatever it is. It's not very far. So I think it's going to be tough. And in the new era where you're raising money, I mean, if you were coaching, say, at Central Florida in Orlando or Kansas State in Manhattan, where you're going to have an easier choice to win, to get the money. And you've got a lot, Arizona schools can have some, there's a lot of schools in that Big 12 who can have success fundraising. And I think where you're in the era where you're paying the players, unfortunately, the Bill Snyder era is not coming back to Kansas State.
No. I think when you look at their schedule, the Big 12 has so many question marks. And I think that Klein will have. I didn't put him in either of the success categories, but I think he'll do well because if he can get a good coach to coach some defense, I think he'll be fine because I think he's a good play caller. I think he's a good offensive coach. And it always seems like when you're there as an alum, means a little more to you than it does just to hire in somebody who's not from there. But, when you look at their schedule, home games against Washington State and Tulane early, have to go to Cincinnati. Who knows how they'll be? They get Houston at home. I've heard a lot of people say Houston could be a shocker out of the Big 12. Toughest games, you have to go to Arizona State. You have to go to Colorado. Who knows with Deion how that'll be? You have to go to TCU. Who knows how Iowa State will be now that Campbell's gone? He could go anywhere from 4-8 to 9-3 with that schedule. It just depends on what he's got and how well he can facilitate a team at the helm but I think he'll do fine. I think he's got a better chance than Stein. We talked about him.
Yeah.
We're going to win because of me. Okay, week 2, you get Bama. Then you go to College Station. And then a little bit later, you get LSU. Then you go to Oklahoma. Then you go to Tennessee. Then you play Florida. And what happens if you can't beat Louisville every year?
Yeah.
Okay. I think the only other one I think will have no success, and again, just like we said with whoever I mentioned earlier, I can't even remember. Oh, UCLA. Each school defines success differently. Guy I don't think will have success is Alex Golesh at Auburn, because I think he'll win 8-9 games every year, and that won't be enough. If you can't beat Bama and you can't make playoff, that ain't good enough at Auburn. I think he'll win plenty of games, but for their standards, I don't think he'll be successful for them.
Now, what do you think about your guy, Ryan Silverfield?
I think he will do well, and I don't think he'll be a fired coach. I think he'll be one who will eventually leave us because he'll get another, potentially a bigger standard school in the SEC or the Big Ten or something like that. I think that.
How do you define success?
I think that we will, for Arkansas success, it to me is consistently making a bowl at this for now. And I think if you can get to that level, and then all of a sudden everybody go, okay, now minimum, let's win 8 games a year. And then if, say, he does that for 2 years, okay, let's maybe by that point, if playoffs are 24 teams, okay, sure. Well, who knows? But because he's as young as he is, unless he just has some kind of, message from the Lord that says, hey, put your roots in Fayetteville. If he has any kind of success at all, I think one of these bigger, more prominently named schools with more cash will come calling him, and he'll leave. I think he'll do well. Not that I didn't dislike Sam Pittman, but I think that when you've had kind of that old school guy for several years who walks and talks slow and just kind of a heck yeah kind of guy, get a little young fire in there and a good offensive coordinator in a league, it's fun to watch teams that like to score and can score a lot. So let's get out there and let's put up 40, 50 every week. And if we're going to have close games, let's make them shootouts, let's who knows about the defense. But I think that, and that's probably just me looking through red glasses, but I think that he'll, I think in Arkansas terms, I think he'll be successful. The only other one I want to miss, and I dug way deep into the archives, and I don't even have a take on how he'll do. I just thought he needed to be at least mentioned, and it's way down in D2. But back in the head coaching for the first time, Eastern New Mexico is Art Briles. Used to coach at Baylor for a very long time, very good teams, and then had a little bit of a scandal for him to leave. But he had a ton of success as a head coach, and so he's taken all these years of not doing anything head coach wise, and D2 school has decided they'll take a chance on Art Briles. So we'll see kind of how his success goes.
Yeah, I know there was a lot of people. I was living in Texas for part of that, and there were it was very divided among the Baylor fan base at that time, when I don't think it should have been. That one of the guys that I worked with was a Baylor grad and donated. He was not happy with Art Briles, but the guy with an office down the road was an Art Briles guy. Yep. And so they would bicker and fight all the time. So very divided, and it'll be interesting because it has been a long time for Art Briles as well, and I guess you probably don't have to deal with as many NIL issues as, say, Eastern New Mexico. But still, you've got to be able to construct a roster, and when people are rating you all the time, it's a lot of recruiting. So we'll see. And Art Briles is not a spring chicken anymore.
He's not. And best of luck to him. Hopefully he does well. All right, we're going to take our last break of the show. We'll wrap up right after this, do some love it or leave it, have our animal takes, and then we're going to get out of here. So let's hear from our sponsors again here on Lake Area Takes. Stay with us. We'll be back.
Hungry? We've got you covered. Welcome to Bentley's Restaurant, Greer's Ferry's largest restaurant. Join us for breakfast and lunch every Tuesday and Wednesday, then come back Thursday through Saturday for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. From homemade omelets and our Saturday breakfast buffet to fresh salads, daily lunch specials, and hand-cut ribeyes cut as big as you want them, there's something for everyone. Friday and Saturday nights are legendary with our seafood buffet featuring jumbo peel and eat shrimp, catfish, crawfish, and all your favorites. Plus, don't miss our delicious prime rib on Saturday nights and our crab leg dinner every Friday and Saturday. Whether you're joining us for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, you'll always find great food, generous portions, and friendly service. Bentley's Restaurant in Greers Ferry. Come hungry, bring your friends, and make every meal one to remember.
Looking for farm fresh beef for your family? Blacktop Cowboy Cattle Company has you covered. Choose from a whole, half, or a quarter beef, or purchase individual packaged cuts. Our cattle are locally raised, and your beef is processed at a trusted local facility for quality you can taste. Best of all, your order is picked up and hand-delivered locally right to your door by Eddie Whitehurst. Call Blacktop Cowboy Cattle Company today and put farm-raised beef on your family's table.
Are you a sports card collector? Then make your next stop Stan's Sports Cards in Greenbrier. Whether you're chasing vintage legends or today's hottest rookies, Stan's Sports Cards has something for every sports fan. Browse an incredible selection of sports cards, jerseys, memorabilia, and collectibles from your favorite teams and players. Looking to sell? Stan's Sports Cards is actively buying vintage and modern sports cards. Turn those cards sitting in a box into cash today. Visit Stan's Sports Cards at 26 South Broadview, Highway 65, in Greenbrier, open Tuesdays through Fridays from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Ready for your next beach getaway? Discover the perfect vacation with Willock Condo Rentals. Enjoy beautiful beachfront condos in Navarre Beach and Panama City Beach, Florida. When you book directly with the owner, you'll pay no service fees, saving more money for fun in the sun. For over 15 years, Willock Condo Rentals has helped families create unforgettable beach memories with comfortable accommodations and breathtaking Gulf views. Start planning your next vacation today. Contact Willock Condo Rentals and experience the beach the way it was meant to be.
Discover Little Red at Indian Hills, where good food, great views, and Arkansas hospitality come together in Fairfield Bay. Enjoy lunch or dinner with comfortable indoor seating, a relaxing outdoor patio, and barbecue available Thursday through Saturday. From golfers fresh off the course to locals and visitors alike, Little Red is the place to gather, eat well, and unwind. Little Red at Indian Hills. Good food, great views, and a Fairfield Bay favorite.
All right, we are back here on Lake Area Takes, fixing to get ready to wrap up this week's episode. And as always, we'll turn it over, take care of some love it or leave it. If you're new here, we just kind of very quickly hit 4 or 5 different things in the sports world and pretty much tell you whether we're fans of it or not. Again, as John always says, because nobody has asked, but we're going to tell you anyway.
Just because you haven't asked doesn't mean we're not going to give an answer.
That's true. And I'm telling you, we have more wisdom than you think we do. So we'll start with this one. College football season. We've had a lot of talks lately with all different kinds of sports, different levels, whether seasons are too long, too short, are they just right? Do they last too long? Now, because of the longer playoff, we're playing college football nearly to the end of January. Your wording of this when you sent it to me was something about, do you just mix championship games? Do you start the playoffs sooner? Do you start the season sooner? Should college football season shrink? And if so, how do you do it?
I think the big deal is that the college football playoffs last forever. And if at some point in the very near future they're going to add more rounds, then you've got to find a way to condense things. And a lot of talk is centered around just nixing the conference championship games. I don't know that it's a great idea, but if you're looking to start the playoffs sooner and you're going to add, you're going to go to 24, I think you pretty much have to do it. And I think the only thing that's stopping that is the revenue side of it, especially at the SEC and the Big Ten level. You don't want to give up the money. But I think you pretty much have to do it. I do not like the idea also being floating around of moving week 1 to week 0. It's just going to be too dang hot. It's already hot enough early in the season in the South through the middle of September or later. If you're in Texas, it's hotter than that. I mean,
even in Arkansas, it seems like
Yeah.
early in October, it's still hot.
The game, our third game of the year last year, we hosted Iowa State at ASU, and the TV moved the game to 2:00, and it was miserable. It was 100 degrees, just sitting out there baking in the sun. It was just not a good experience. And if you're going to do that,
But y'all really won that game, though.
yeah.
Sorry, not to bring it up. Not to bring it
We
up.
nearly won a lot of games.
That's fair. That would have been a big one.
Yeah, that would have been huge. And we can talk about what the Big 12 referees did to us, and we got that official notification of apology in the fourth quarter, when they called back 2 touchdowns, but that's neither here nor there. But it was hotter than blazes out there at 2:00 on a Saturday afternoon, and if you're playing in Gainesville, Florida, or Houston, Texas, or Ruston, Louisiana, or wherever in the South, and you're going to say, hey, there's those years when you play on August 30th. Let's start it on the 24th. Everybody could do it. I don't know that that's a great idea. So if we're going to kind of move things around, I think that eventually it will be forced to happen, unfortunately, because of the length of the playoffs. I don't know that people want to give up the revenue of the conference championship games. So I think that is one of the solutions that will happen, and it's just not good for the fans, especially people who tailgate, be sitting out there all day and all that bad weather. So I'm not a fan of really any of these changes. I think if you could do anything, just eliminate the conference championship games and start the playoffs then, and get more rounds in early, especially before the NFL playoffs start. I think that really hurts viewership and people paying attention and having to play these games on odd days, Thursday, Friday. It's just, especially playing on a college campus, you want it to be on Saturday, or there's so many of them. Friday is fine, whatever. But playing all these playoff games on odd days just because that's how the calendar falls is not good. It's not good for anyone to watch it or pay attention or go to them. And so I think unfortunately the games will be moved to week 0. But I think you also have to really consider the elimination of conference championship games, because that frees up a week. And especially now that, the Sun Belt is the only Division I conference that has divisions. So what are you trying to prove by playing a conference championship game at any point?
I don't see it shrinking. I don't see them eliminating conference championship games. Do I think it would hurt if they did? No, because I think 95% of the time conference championship games winners are predictable, and they usually go the way that you expect it to. I think that since the NFL always goes into February with the Super Bowl, I think that they'll just continue to allow the season to drop further and further into January, as long as it does not surpass the Super Bowl date. And by that point, NFL just bumped up to 17 a few years ago. By that point, the NFL could be doing 20 games. And by the time I'm 70, they may be playing the Super Bowl in the first week of March, for all I know. So should it shrink? Probably. And that'll probably be, more of a case if playoffs ever go to 16 or 24. But I think, as long as it doesn't get anywhere close to finishing up around the same time as the Super Bowl, I think we'll just continue to see it be dated deeper into January. But,
yeah. I don't think it'll shrink. I think like I said, I think that we'll move into one earlier week.
Yeah, and I really don't know.
And maybe the only shrinkage would be the conference championship game, but right now I think there's too much money tied up for that to happen.
And maybe it's just me hoping, but I don't. Even if they replace week 0 with week 1, I would like to think and hope they wouldn't go any further than that. And I would hope that if they are going to have to, extend the season before or after, they would go after, because I think for these athletes, for anybody, it's easier to play when it's a little more cold out than when it's, down here in the South, especially when the heat index is 120.
Yes.
And you got these guys in full pads, and we've seen it, and you see it all the time on the news. That can be dangerous, and you don't.
But another thing complicating this, not to draw this issue out, is the transfer portal and going to only the one window. You've got people playing in playoff games, meaningful games, not just bowl games, which obviously have some meaning, but not as much as the playoffs. We keep going into the next semester, these guys are students too. Maybe the academics is not the focus in some campuses and in some places and by some players. but you've got to be enrolled at the other school in order to participate. And so with the evolution of that, I think that we're going to have to come to a reckoning at some point on all these issues.
Should a Major League Baseball pitching mound be lowered? And more so, before answering this, got to ask what it was that made you think about this one.
There's been a lot of talk about that lately. Can't remember the name of the writer from The Athletic has written a story and talked to a lot of people about that. And one of the issues to create more offense, because if you could watch more than 2 days of Major League Baseball in a row now, congratulations, because this is one of the most boring sports on the planet now, and that's just coming from a baseball guy. Because the offense is so bad, and a lot of that has to do with the mechanics and the swings and things like that now, where it's, home run or bust. But the talk is you're trying to make it easier for hitters with all these guys coming out of the bullpen, starting, throwing 100 miles an hour or more, and trying to generate more offense. And I guess this would be a quick, easier start of a solution, but I think that it just ignores too many issues.
I am someone that watches baseball every single day. And so when you said hats off, you said if you could watch it 2 days, I've probably watched it for 62 days straight. But
God bless you, because I can't. It's not good.
It's
but I'm old.
I don't see any problem at the moment. I just, me personally, that I think it would affect my viewing. I don't see it being lower and more offense making me want to watch more than I already do. I think I'm pretty well set. And so to me,
but to an average sports fan in America,
I mean,
do you not think that you're thinking, gosh, this is boring, because you have no guy, and maybe it's because I'm old and I remember how baseball was 30 years ago when there were people on base and attempting. I'm not even talking about stealing and hitting and run, but it's like, to me, the biggest point of all this was the All-Star game and how terrible that was. The National League had, 3 runners on the entire game because of the pitching, and it's just, if you don't have anybody on base, you can't score, and the game has just gotten out of hand. And I think that was kind of what brought all this to the forefront.
Yeah, I don't know. We had the talk a few weeks ago about or maybe even last week, about the batting average stat, and I think more on the Moneyball side of things, just get on base, and doesn't matter how you do it.
But nobody's getting on base.
And
that's the problem.
But most of the games to me that I have on are not ending, 2-1 or 2-0. Like, to me, there's enough offense to still keep me interested at least. And so for me personally, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I know so some people it may be broke, but I'm like, to me, I don't see the point in lowering the mound.
Did Rob Manfred pay you to say that?
He did not. Him and I have not spoken in a long time. Is there a women NBA image problem? This one's difficult because I'm by no means have been a lifelong women NBA fan. And I think, their statistics in general over the past 10, 15 years have proven that very few people have been lifelong women NBA fans. Congratulations to them for turning 30 this year, however old they are, 20, 25, whatever it was. But I'm going to go more along the lines of maybe they did, but I think it's getting better. And
really,
I do, only because I think that, there was the whole thing about pay them more. And yes, I was 100% on board with the people who were like, okay, pay them more, but you pay them more based on how much revenue they draw in, and women NBA just doesn't make the money.
Yeah, basically subsidized by the NBA.
Right. To me, it's common sense. So I was like, okay, they want to make more. Well, then they have to earn the revenue. And I'm sorry that they have to fly on public planes like everybody else, and the NBA doesn't have to do that. But there's no money for them to fly private.
And a lot of them have started
that's why I'm wanting to say more of the image is getting better, because what garners people to watch sports are the personalities that play the sports. You can love a sport. I mean, I love golf more than the average person. But would I watch golf every week if there was not a Bryson DeChambeau or a Scotty Scheffler, or when I was a kid, a Tiger Woods or a Phil Mickelson? Probably not. Would people watch the NBA if there was not a Stephen Curry, throwing up 35 footers every night, or for the past 55 years, LeBron James? And just would people? I don't know. And for me, the last few years, you've gotten Caitlin Clark, who's kind of being the Steph of her game and trying to change the look of the way the game is played. And people like all these girls from UConn, with Beckers, and then you've got, I'm not even going to talk
like half the league is from UConn.
Not for real. Not even going to speak on her talent, but the just the drama, the Lane Kiffin-esque drama that follows Angel Reese, and you've got these personalities now, and enough of these guys who are playing the game in a way that have people actually kind of wanting to watch, that I think that it maybe is kind of solving their problem. And I watch more now when Caitlin Clark's on. I watch now when Paige Beckers is on. And, when some of these personalities are playing. And do I get entertained when I see, like just last night, I think, when I see Paige Beckers and Angel Reese kind of getting into it, mouthing a little bit? Yeah. And I think it helps their image that they're becoming something that you can, flip on SportsCenter and see more than just a final score. It's like, check out the drama that kind of happened. And then you see these arenas now, and they're pretty darn full. And I'm like, they're kind of building their own little thing here, and a whole lot better than it was for the past 10, 15 years. So is there a problem? If there is, it's getting better, in my opinion. I think they have had a problem. But I think they're on the right path, and maybe in another year or so, the answer to this for me would be no. So
I completely disagree with on that one issue. I think, first of all, would the NBA allow the other team to do what they're doing to Michael Jordan to Caitlin Clark? They are just flat out mugging her on the court a lot of times and just knocking her down, and her teammates are having to fight for her, and it's just gotten out of hand. It's just, I think that has just become absolutely crazy, and that's just, if you want to watch because of the basketball, it's just insane what they're, pushing her down and punching her when she's down. I mean, they're allowing that. And the fouls they call against her, it's just insane. And I mean, she is the marquee player. Maybe she is or isn't the best player, but she is the marquee player by far. And what the officiating in the league is allowed to do to her, first of all, is insane. The second issue they've had, and just the other day, I can't remember if it was last week or this week, the co-owner of the Seattle team badmouthed and attacked some young fans in the Seattle arena because they supported Sophie Cunningham and her political issues. And it doesn't matter what your issues to be. You should not be able to attack fans of any team, especially if you're a co-owner. I mean, and then you throw into it the WNBA, the people who run it have no idea what they're doing, because they put out a video of Beckers and Reese betting on the All-Star game. They had to quickly take down because it's against league rules. So, I mean, they are just a complete mess, and I think it starts from the top. The commissioner, during the All-Star break, was supposed to go on the Dan Patrick show to do a State of the League, and he was going to ask some questions, and he's not a flamethrower of a journalist, but asked those fair questions that needed to be asked, and she canceled because he was going to ask questions that she didn't want to answer. So I think it starts from the top. It's a complete mess, and if it wasn't for Caitlin Clark and some of the new players, nobody would be paying attention, because they can't get their act together.
I think the point on the Seattle owner, who did get officially announced as suspended.
Thank God.
I don't agree with what she did. However, I think that can happen in any sport.
But an owner, you ought to have
and I agree. But that could happen with an owner of an NFL team or a baseball team, and I don't think that would just tarnish their entire organization's image. It's a horrible look. But I don't think it would give, if Jerry Jones tomorrow did that, I don't think it gives the NFL an image problem. I think it gives Jerry Jones an image problem, and I think the Seattle owner now has a huge image problem.
I think the combination of all these issues.
Well, and then to me, I mean, the thing with the wager, I mean, it was the All-Star game.
They were trying to be fun.
It was caught on a hot mic as a fun moment in the All-Star game, and the All-Star games in any sport is not serious enough for, I think, it to be anything where people got to go, oh, they bet on it.
But if the WNBA sets this up, you think they should know their own rules, and I think that's part of the problem. They don't.
And they don't. But to me, I think that if they caught Steph Curry and LeBron James on the hot mic doing that in the NBA, I don't think anybody would touch it. So I don't think that can relate to an image problem. The part of your thing I will agree with is I think Clark does get mugged a ton. I think, it was culminated by the foot on the throat was just kind of how in the world do you watch that back and be like, not one of the 6 eyes on the floor with a whistle in their mouth saw that? Like holy heck, like how? She is the face of your league, whether you want to admit it or not. And it ain't because she's the best player. LeBron James at 42 years old is probably no longer the best. He isn't the best player anymore in the NBA, but he's your face.
Yes.
And you whether they want to say whether they like her or not, I mean, the reason
people who run things don't appear to.
As you and I did both agree on just now, even though maybe we answered this question different, your league has got more eyes on you now because you have people like her playing and like the people we mentioned. If your face of the league is getting kicked in the throat every night, I mean, I will agree with you on that that's not a good way to treat the face of your league. And it would be a bigger issue if Tom Brady kept getting hit late and it wasn't getting called. If LeBron James got his throat stomped on, or Michael Jordan, as you said, ever got his stomped on, or Wayne Gretzky got sent into the stands 25 times, or got slapsticked and nothing ever happened. Like that part, I will agree with you with that has not been handled in the best way. But I don't know.
They seem to be targeting her.
And if that is, then if ever it was dug into deeper and it was determined that it was a targeted issue with her, yes, that's a huge image problem. But as a whole, to me, I don't think they have one. We'll live golf last. I can answer this quickly. It is currently in the ICU on a life ventilator, and it'll be dead very, very soon. It didn't make any sense to begin with. I mean, it was, all the Saudi stuff and the money, whatever, and you got enough big names to make people maybe those guys halfway believe, holy crap, we got Phil Mickelson, we got Dustin Johnson, we got John Rahm, we got Bryson DeChambeau. We can build something out of this. People will watch, and then I think it proved people didn't care. And the golf is poor, and someone who watches a lot of golf, they're playing easy courses. They're playing short courses in a league where these guys can hit 500 yards. At least PGA Tour continually chooses to challenge them and play courses in a longer way, yardage wise. But Live doesn't do that. So these guys are shooting 30 something under and shooting these ridiculous scores because they're playing easier courses against not a lot of competition. I don't think people quite think the team aspect of it is as fun as it would be. And now we're already seeing guys begin to bail back to the PGA. And so I think it's been nowhere but going down since it started. And I think that we've just about reached the tombstone of it. So, and to me, good riddance.
I completely agree. Once the Saudi money was pulled, and they announced that it would go through the end of this season, and then so you got to come up with a lot of money because they poured hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars into it. I know there were rumors, after all this mess this last week of them not even competing in their last tournament of the season. I don't think that has been officially announced yet. But it was a $19 million tournament in Michigan was going to be pulled, and it still sounds like it's going to. And among all this mess, the LIV officials came out with them getting basically, and it's not set in stone yet, a $250 million lifeline from some company. But compared to the money that the Saudis were spending, I don't think it's anywhere close to what they'll need to operate successfully. And he sent out an email to the players that basically said they will have to more responsible scheduling and things, of that nature. So it sounds like even with if this deal comes through and it's supposedly not supposed to be until September before it's finalized, and there's a long time between now and September to get a $250 million deal settled. I just think that you're running out the stream, you're losing big names, you don't have the money from the Saudis anymore, so it's just basically a matter of time before it completely goes away.
I think that the first big clump of people who jumped were mainly guys who had problems with the PGA. Okay, you don't like PGA, you can go play the European Tour, you can go play the DP World Tour. It's not so much some of them now because PGA has merged and partnered with them. But I think guys like Sergio Garcia and Ian Poulter, they had problems with the PGA Tour. So, okay. Well, then you're right. Saudi starts throwing around all this money. I don't think John Rahm had a problem with PGA. I don't think Tyrell Hatton had a problem. I don't think Bryson had a problem. I don't think Dustin had a problem. I think Koepka had a problem. I think that, and I've watched these guys, Netflix has a documentary called Full Swing where they follow these guys. And when the series first started was right when LIV became a thing. And a lot of these guys are just straight up telling you, they're like, I have a wife and 3 kids. You're going to offer me alone, you're going to offer me $200 million guaranteed to come play?
Sign me up.
Why would I not? I have 3 kids under the age of 10. Why would I not do that for my children?
That is setting you up for the rest of your life and longer.
And longer. And everyone wants to talk about their problem with it is the image of you're taking money from a group of people who've been involved in some sketchy stuff. And and they admitted that, if you want to look at it that way, then maybe that is hard to think about. But my gosh, I lived this life once, and I have my children this age once, and I want them to have a future. And if I can make sure it's paid for, then fine. And let's not forget, you talked about all that money. LIV offered Tiger Woods $700 to $800 million to jump.
And we're not talking about the Tiger Woods and winning all the tournaments.
No, we're talking about 45-year-old Tiger Woods who's had 8 back surgeries.
And has other personal problems.
And they were going to throw almost $1 billion at him. And they even made Jack Nicklaus an offer, who ain't even playing. Just come be our ambassador. I mean, at that point, it was just money to burn, and you knew it wouldn't last. And I mean, you're right. When they realized there's no place for the money to come from, and like I said, guys like Brooks Koepka, Brooks was the biggest name that's already jumped back, and I think it's just going to slowly start, everybody trickling in after. And again, if you don't want to play PGA, then go play somewhere else. And I had to throw this one on here because this happened, I want to say maybe the same day we aired last week, just really late in the day. Because I think I thought of it afterwards. I thought, man, we just quit filming a couple hours ago. We've been talking about one day something big is going to happen on air, and we're going to get to break it. But and we don't talk a lot of NBA, but
news of the week,
everywhere, and you can call whoever you want to the greatest of all time. It's another debate for another day, but the biggest player still, and again, we just called him. He's the face of the league, and I mean, he's fixing to play his 24th year.
I'm going to say at 80.
At about 41 years old, moving like he's still 31. But LeBron James is going to Philadelphia, and he made it pretty clear, obviously, this will be his last ever decision he makes as far as where he plays. 2 years, $8 million. He's clearly in the mode of, I'll take just a little bit, and I just want to try to win another title. He's in Philadelphia now. Love it, leave it, or indifferent.
Yeah, I'm just tired of LeBron James, to be quite honest. I mean, whatever. I mean, that's kind of the don't care thing. Like I had on those AAA things earlier. It's like no issues. Like I think if you're a Philly fan, it probably gives you some kind of hope because hey, LeBron James, great player. Well, it's not the LeBron James from 5 years ago, much less 10 years ago. Is he a good player? Yes. Can he bring some names out, make some more money for the franchise? Sure, maybe. But I don't think LeBron James at this age is the kind of player. I think he still doesn't always play well with others. I think some of that bared out in LA. Is they got Luka and Reeves was having a great career and things like that. So I don't know what kind of impact LeBron James will have. You'll certainly get a lot more eyes on the 76ers. But how many more wins they get, I don't think it's going to be many. And unless they spend a lot of money elsewhere, I don't think they'll end up with the title.
I think that as someone who, I mean, I do watch still on a basketball level. I mean, if he wanted to try for one more title, this was probably the best decision he could make. Philadelphia just got Jaylen Brown from Boston. You know, Embiid is made of glass, but when he's healthy, he can be a pretty good player, even in a league that's not defined by bigs no more. I mean, all the bigs can shoot. He can shoot, whatever. Maxi's a great young guard, and then you get a guy like VJ Edgecombe, who in his rookie year showed like, oh, this guy could be something for about 10, 15 years. It builds a very dynamic first five for sure. And if you looked at all of his options, to me, full team-wise, that probably was his best option for if he wants to try to get another ring or two, where, you know, depending on who you ask, probably was the best move he could make. Me, personally, hate this with every fiber in my being, but that's the Celtics fan in me, and Philly's in our division. Never can like Philly. It's just it's in our handbook you take, and the oath you take as a fan when you come in on day one. And don't want to play them 4 times this year or potentially run into them in the playoffs. I have no beef with Jaylen Brown going there. I think everyone for Boston has known for the past 4 or 5 years that eventually one day Brown and Tatum would break up. One would go somewhere else. It just happened to be the day. I hated it also that he went there because they're in the division, and then they get, you know, the face of the league as well. So personally, leave it until it cannot be left anymore. So hopefully these 2 years go by, and as I've told everybody who's asked me in the past week, I hope this is nothing more than a failed experiment. So we'll see. Our final segment, as we do every week, this week in Animal Takes. And usually for this part of the show, John comes in with something for the viewers, but I actually got a clip for this week, and little pride in this video, but I know this person very well in this video, and this would be who I consider my ride or die, but I get to say that. So this is my wife and her horse. Now her horse, the only preface I'll give is her horse is her pride and joy. Outside of, I would hope, me and our child. But I know she grew up always wanting one. She finally got one a little over a year ago. But for those who know me, know that her and I are expecting our second kid. And so one of the unfortunate parts of her pregnancy now that she has a horse she cannot ride. Her horse, named Maverick, she cannot ride Maverick until after baby, obviously, which is very bumming to her. She's very disappointed that she can't ride Maverick. So she had to find a new way to go have some fun with Maverick. Now, I don't spend much time with Maverick. When my wife's gone, I do have to go feed him. We get along. I just consider us buddies, you know. But she has always told me, she's like, Maverick's just nothing but a big dog. And she's like, he'll lick you, he'll play, he'll do this and that. I never really had seen that. And then she sends me this. So let's check out my wife and her horse. The thrills of live television.
Sometimes things do not work out as well as you can, so hopefully we'll be able to get that fixed.
We'll
throw it up next week.
Yeah, we'll try to make sure we can throw it up. Anyway, she was exactly right. Nothing but a big dog running around and jumping around and playing fetch and chasing her, and a lot of fun. But anyway, so shout out to Faith and Maverick, and so sorry that we couldn't get that to work any better than it did. That's going to do it. Been a long show, but it's been a good one. We had a great guest, had some good talks about what AAA did this week, and got to talk more college football. I know John and I keep whetting our appetite, and I know next week we'll be in the 20s on our countdown. So we're just getting closer and closer. It'll be August next week. So we'll be officially in the month of college football kickoff.
August on Saturday, if you're counting down.
Yeah, August 1, about a little less than 48 hours away. Anyway, on next week's show, Rory Bradley will be here. He is a member of the PGA of America. He's managed pretty much every golf course in our area here at some point. He's kind of spearheaded and been at the helm of Tannenbaum Mountain Ranch and most recently Indian Hills. He's a graduate from Shirley, so he's a Lake area native. And he's also, for a long time now, been a high school referee for basketball. So lots of different avenues and different things we can talk. He's got
wears a lot of hats.
Wears a lot of hats. Got a couple boys who played some college sports. One who's back coaching in the Lake area. Been coaching in the Lake area for a few years now. So a lot of stuff we can talk with Rory about next week. And so we're excited to have him on. And we'll jump ahead and just kind of let you know, since next week or next month is August and football will be starting. That also means our high school teams will be getting underway by the end of the month and early September. So the final Thursday of August will be our football preview show. We'll have, Lord willing, we'll have interviews from head coaches from Quitman Southside and Rosebud, and we'll kind of break down the season for our Lake area football team. So go ahead and mark your calendars for August 27th. That'll be high school football preview show here on Lake Area Takes. Once again, if you don't know where you can find us, we're on Facebook, YouTube, and Spotify. Just search Lake Area Sports and Lake Area Takes, and look for the nice logo of me and John, and we'll be happy to follow us, leave comments, and don't forget $25 gift certificate to Little Red to someone who comments Jesus wins is chosen by our guest Jacob Roark this week. Leave that in the comments. Tag Little Red while you're at it. Give them a shout out, and we will randomly choose a winner and announce who wins on next week's episode. So
if you're still watching, thank you. This is a long one today, but I hope you enjoyed it.
We might have topped the Billy Morgan episode this week, but we'll see. But yeah, thanks for joining us this week on Lake Area Takes episode 6 in the books. We'll have episode 7 next week with Roy Bradley. For John Verser, I'm Austin Gray. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll let our sponsors see us out the door, and we hope to see you all next week. Have a great rest of your week.
Hungry? We've got you covered. Welcome to Bentley's Restaurant, Greer's Ferry's largest restaurant. Join us for breakfast and lunch every Tuesday and Wednesday, then come back Thursday through Saturday for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. From homemade omelets and our Saturday breakfast buffet to fresh salads, daily lunch specials, and hand-cut ribeyes cut as big as you want them, there's something for everyone. Friday and Saturday nights are legendary with our seafood buffet featuring jumbo peel and eat shrimp, catfish, crawfish, and all your favorites. Plus, don't miss our delicious prime rib on Saturday nights and our crab leg dinner every Friday and Saturday. Whether you're joining us for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, you'll always find great food, generous portions, and friendly service. Bentley's Restaurant in Greer's Ferry. Come hungry, bring your friends, and make every meal one to remember.
Looking for farm fresh beef for your family? Blacktop Cowboy Cattle Company has you covered. Choose from a whole, half, or a quarter beef, or purchase individual packaged cuts. Our cattle are locally raised, and your beef is processed at a trusted local facility for quality you can taste. Best of all, your order is picked up and hand-delivered locally right to your door by Eddie Whitehurst. Call Blacktop Cowboy Cattle Company today and put farm-raised beef on your family's table.
Are you a sports card collector? Then make your next stop Stan's Sports Cards in Greenbrier. Whether you're chasing vintage legends or today's hottest rookies, Stan's Sports Cards has something for every sports fan. Browse an incredible selection of sports cards, jerseys, memorabilia, and collectibles from your favorite teams and players. Looking to sell? Stan's Sports Cards is actively buying vintage and modern sports cards. Turn those cards sitting in a box into cash today. Visit Stan's Sports Cards at 26 South Broadview, Highway 65, in Greenbrier, open Tuesdays through Fridays from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Ready for your next beach getaway? Discover the perfect vacation with Willock Condo Rentals. Enjoy beautiful beachfront condos in Navarre Beach and Panama City Beach, Florida. When you book directly with the owner, you'll pay no service fees, saving more money for fun in the sun. For over 15 years, Willock Condo Rentals has helped families create unforgettable beach memories with comfortable accommodations and breathtaking Gulf views. Start planning your next vacation today. Contact Willock Condo Rentals and experience the beach the way it was meant to be.
Discover Little Red at Indian Hills, where good food, great views, and Arkansas hospitality come together in Fairfield Bay. Enjoy lunch or dinner with comfortable indoor seating, a relaxing outdoor patio, and barbecue available Thursday through Saturday. From golfers fresh off the course to locals and visitors alike, Little Red is the place to gather, eat well, and unwind. Little Red at Indian Hills. Good food, great views,